Okay, so 3 playoff games to talk about. Suns-Wolves, Clippers-Mavs, and a crazy Pacers-Bucks game. But we are going to start with Suns-Wolves. Yeah, look, man, I picked Phoenix, and I think definitely by the end of game 1, but I think pretty much in the middle of game 1, I was just like, yeah, I got way too caught up in the Suns' regular season games versus the Wolves, because besides those, it was clear who the better team was all year. Wolves are just a better team. Suns never had a chance in the series. I mean, the screen navigation of Jaden and Nikhil and Ant and Conley and everybody, combined with Rudy higher up on screens, switching more, general ball pressure, and the Wolves not being in super heavy rotations, having Cat switch over to KD as opposed to Grayson Allen in the regular season. And yes, Grayson Allen, he got hurt. He helps the Suns, of course. Don't think that would have been the difference. I said that in the last video. They completely locked him up. And while in my preview I did say that I think the Wolves can slow down the Suns, my questions were more so on the other side of the floor, the Wolves offense and Ant against the Suns, because he wasn't good against them in the regular season. He just completely torched him. I mean, I gave him all his praises in the previous game about just his making plays with 2 on the ball. Did the same thing again in this game, man. I mean, one of the plays late there where it's a Ant Rudy screen action up top, and then he keeps his dribble alive as Nurk is high up on the screen, and then he just gets into the paint, and then it's a great wraparound jump pass thing to Nickeil Alexander-Walker for a corner 3. We had slow-mo hit Nickeil with a corner 3 that was great as well. On a skip pass that was really good. You had towards the end of the first half, once again, Ant Rudy screen action, and it's like Conley relocates from underneath the rim to the corner for the 3, and Ant just finds him perfectly, and whoever was closing out on him for the Suns was just a step slow. Like, every fear that I had about Ant's playmaking against Phoenix and the Wolves and, their sometimes turnover problem in the regular season was not a problem at all against Phoenix. And then you take into account just, like, there was a stretch in this game, man, where it was like KD took a fadeaway around the paint, basically, when he could have cut to the rim, but Rudy was right there. Okay, he misses. And then KD gets it again later on, and he's got Cat matched up on him, and then he immediately goes to a tough fading 2 as opposed to just trying to beat him off the bounce or anything. The shot doesn't go in. And this is not me just like saying it's all Kevin Durant's fault, but more so just the idea of like, yeah, they weren't going to win this game. They were not able to turn the Wolves over, and on the other end, they just were not able to generate open catch-and-shoot threes anywhere near enough to have a chance against this Wolves defense. Or, be able to consistently get just good shots at the rim. And I was very wrong. Also, shout out to Conley for the pull-up 3 he had when Nurkic wasn't as high up on the screen. It was cool. Okay. My plan is to do a future of every round 1 exit once all the round 1 series are done. I imagine people are going to be doing a whole lot of Phoenix Suns discussion, and I mean, it's fair, because this Suns team, they have traded so many assets. And looking at their situation on RealGM.com, I mean, all their second rounders are going to the Wizards pretty much. And then the first rounders, I mean, there's a bunch of weirdness with 2026, 28, and 30. They do have their pick this year, which is the 22nd pick, and then they got 3 years where they don't have a pick at all. Salary-wise, I mean, they're very expensive. We all know this. KD is in his mid-30s. And it's a few things, man. I mean, they need more connectivity out of their big 3. They need more size, physicality. They need more variety in the offense. They need more guys who can screen on the ball for any of the big 3. They need more connectivity, general playmaking. A lot of people would say they need a point guard, and the complications that arise with that is, well, you already got 2 guards, and do you want to get super small in your attempts to find a point guard, They need a more modern shot diet. They don't take enough threes. I get it. Listen, I love the mid-range as much as everybody else, but there's a limit. But they also got to generate more shots at the rim. They got to do a lot. I mean, I've already said this. If you don't shoot a lot of threes and you are not the Denver Nuggets, it's just going to be kind of tough for you to maximize what your offense can be. But also, should be said, this is not me trying to say that it's not any of the big 3's fault and everything around them is a mess and their connectivity is not good enough. No, they're also just straight up, we're not good enough. As far as if you want to do the whole going back to the Chris Paul trade, yeah, they turned Chris Paul into Bradley Beal. Okay, a whole bunch of assets were attached to it with, all their second round picks and whatever else. And if you want to really try to galaxy brain it and think about what else they could have done with the Chris Paul contract, if you want to go through that exercise, I'm sure you can find some alternatives to what they chose to do. So anyway, that's it on that one. Also, Cat, he was getting buckets in this one. And now with the Wolves and Nuggets both up 3-0, we know what's going to happen now. Don't want to do a whole lot in that series just in this video, but obviously elite defense against Jokic, Murray, KCP, Gordon, MPJ, the whole thing. Should be a good time. Next up, we are going to go to Pacers-Bucks, because I think with how good this game was, it does not deserve to be the third game talked about. My goodness. So Hallie eventually gets the buzzer beater off of the full court screen action with Siakam, rejects the screen, gets to the middle. He's got Andre Jackson as well as Pat Bev just all over him, hits the floater, and that's your ball game. But it did feel like this game had like 3 or 4 different stories, because in the first quarter it was the Pacers doing all their signature Pacer things, and there was a stretch there, especially when Dame went down, when it's like, oh, this might get real ugly real fast for the Bucks. I mean, you had Halliburton, Siakam screen up top with Portis guarding Siakam, and then Brook is helping off of Turner in the corner, and that becomes a 3. Or they double Siakam in the post, and then it's swing, Nembhard to Hallie, who then takes it off the dribble and he finishes. Or we've got, I mean, the second that they have an opportunity off of a make, it's just Halliburton pushing it, runs a screen action with Obi, who then gets into a floater with Portis, I think, guarding that action. It's just all the Pacer things, and then, Dame goes down. Hopefully Dame is okay. Obviously he came back and he started making signature Dame shots in the whole thing. But then we got to see what I thought was really entertaining, which was the Chris Middleton-Aaron Nesmith matchup, where, well, while not every single Middleton shot attempt was with Nesmith on him in this game, a good amount of them were. It was a bit of like old dude going at the young guy. I mean, that's literally what it was, right? It was just back downs. I mean, we're talking physical back downs where like Nesmith is hitting Middleton back as hard as Middleton is hitting him. And there were a couple fouls here and there, but like for the most part, it's just physical post-up stuff. Like, go for it, Unless I missed something, in which case, my bad. And, you had some turnaround jumpers, some went in, some did not. Of course, Middleton made some ridiculous shots late. We also had just a couple of physical drives with Middleton and Nesmith. It was just a fun subplot. It's like the older dude who's, his body has not been 100% cooperating with him the past couple of years, but obviously he can still play and get buckets. And then the younger dude just doing putting all of his energy into it. It was fun. Then you had some stuff sprinkled in where like Middleton would screen for Dame and then get a bank shot, pull up 2, or that insane bank 3 that Middleton had. I think it was that one was a bank 3 as well. I mean, that was a double screen with him and I think Portis screening for Dame. I don't remember exactly who. Where Turner was like, he had a good contest on that Middleton 3 and he just made it anyway. Now, Nesmith did have the corner 3, which was not the dagger, because then we had 2 other crazy shots go in with very little time left in the game. But it was still huge, where they ran basically 2 different Halliburton Siakam screens in the same play, because the first one they had Portis dropping on the screen, and so they weren't able to really get much. Like, Siakam could have taken like a pull-up 2 if he wanted it, but he didn't take it. They run it a second time. This time, Portis is high up on the screen, which requires more rotations on the back end, which then leads to Nesmith getting a corner 3, and then Middleton has to make a crazy shot on the other end, and buzzer beater from Halliburton, or not technically buzzer beater, you know what I mean. It was a great game, man. It really was wild. Okay, now we get to Mavs Clippers. What's up with Kawhi? Anybody know? Okay, cool. This game, to me, it was a kind of a rock fight there. I do think you just saw the Mavs defense, just the improvements, basically summed up in one game, right? More athletic, bigger, the whole thing. I mean, you got Gafford switching on to PG for a play that kind of kills the Clippers offense, then it leads to like a fadeaway 2 that doesn't go in. You got Gafford blocking Norm Powell in transition. You got Gafford very high up on like a Harden screen, while Derek Jones is doing a good job behind Harden on the play, and then he tries a skip pass where Luka steals it, where I think it was supposed to go to Amir Coffey. You had Derek Lively getting that block on Terrence Mann where he tried to screen for Harden, and then he's getting the roll to the rim, and then, now to be nice to Harden, they needed every single one of his points tonight, the Clippers, and obviously still not enough. Him with a good amount of contested threes, Zoo, just all the normal Zoo things, floater off of the screen with Harden, or dunker spot, getting the dump off pass from Harden, or Powell, or PG. One hook shot over Gafford. I think he had another one over Lively as well. Powell was scoring. That was about it for the Clippers, for guys getting real points. There was also plays where the Clippers offense, man, sometimes they're just kind of not going as fast as you want them to. There's not as much zip, and this is something that did happen a bit for them in the regular season. Now, I do think there were also some possessions where the Clippers or the Mavs were just switching a lot of stuff. Like, they had a lineup in there for a few minutes, and I think it was the third, possibly the fourth, where it was like Luka and Kyrie was not out there. Kyrie was getting buckets in the second half, don't get it mistaken, but there was a lineup where it was like Luka and then just switchable athletes around him. So basically they just switched everything, and then it led to like Kawhi taking this tough, well, typically for Kawhi, not a tough, but for tonight, definitely a not super comfortable fadeaway over Josh Green, the missed. And, also pretty much no Tim Hardaway Jr. in the rotation in this game, whereas Josh Green getting more minutes, giving you more, athleticism and defense and the whole thing. We got some Kleba and Gafford minutes as well. As far as Luka and Kyrie, for Luka specifically, it is still a bit of, you don't totally know what the Clippers are going to do possession by possession on him, right? Like, some possessions it's Zoo dropping, sometimes it's him on a switch. Terrence Mann is picking him up typically on these possessions early on. And I remember one of Luka's buckets was like a step back 2 over Kawhi. So obviously the matchups are going to change and all that depending on just flow of the game, switching and everything. And Luka did not have a great shooting game in this one. He was like 7 for 25, 3 of 14 from 3, and like, yeah, there were definitely a good amount of step backs and stuff. And I was going to attempt to find an optimistic twist on that for the Clippers. I think my takeaway is more so like, you got a Luka didn't make every shot basically on you game, and then some, and you still did not get the result you wanted. Now, there were a lot of alley-oops if I can talk about Dallas's offense for a little bit. And I think probably my favorite one was the Dante Exum lob to Lively, where it was a Lively Kyrie screen action on the left wing, and then it was Plumlee, and I think it was Amir Coffey who put 2 to the ball on Kyrie, dared Lively to make a play in the middle of the floor. Well, he's already shown he can do that this year. That's a swing to Exum. He goes off the dribble, lob to Lively, and it's the epitome of, like, the Clippers daring the other guys to beat him. I did also enjoy that give and go that Kyrie had where he threw it to PJ and then immediately went into dead sprint, got it back, and then that was a lob to Lively as well.